New York Jets head coach Aaron Glenn may only have a couple of offseason practices under his belt, but that's all it took to see the impact he's having almost immediately. I'm Glenn Norton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So we've talked this offseason about the impact Aaron Glenn will have, may have, that we expect to have. I did a couple of shows last week, one saying why I think the Jets will be worse next year, or I guess I should say sort of a roadmap to them being worse. And then I followed it up a day or so later, 2 days later, with how they could be better. Now, look, I expect them to be worse, a worse football team. But to be fair, if we just talk about wins and losses with the weaker schedule this year, maybe they win, the same number of games. Maybe they're not a 2 or 3 win team after winning 5 last year. But I don't think they're going to be very good. But that doesn't mean nothing is going to be good. That doesn't mean nothing is going to go to plan. And that doesn't mean I'm right. I could be wrong. Maybe they make the playoffs. I just don't see it happening. Um, but the thing that's jumped out to me right away, based on what we're hearing or what we heard from rookie minicamp, and now what we're hearing from OTAs through just the first couple of days, it certainly does appear that head coach Aaron Glenn, his presence is being felt right away. The changes, right? This is part of the reasoning behind the conversation we had about how this team could get better. And that was about the coaching and not feeling like Aaron Glenn is going to be a guy who spends a lot of time worrying about who likes him and who doesn't, who's my friend and who isn't, who am I offending and who am I not offending. That was the feeling you had with Robert Saleh. I talked and Jeff Ulbrich did the same thing. Um, I don't know if he just sort of inherited that from Saleh, but if you go back and watch their press conferences, I talked about this the other day, and I've mentioned it several times, but it just drives me nuts the way they could not answer a question about a player who was either playing poorly or conducting themselves poorly or behaving in a way that was bad for the team. Anytime they were asked about guys like that, you got a long-winded. Every answer consisted of a nice long-winded expression of how much they love that guy and that guy is great and he's the best. They asked Jeff Ulbrich late in the year about Hassan Reddick, guy who held out most of the season, didn't look to be putting forth any effort when he did get on the field. I think he finished the year with a half a sack, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and Ulbrich starts with, "Oh, he's so unselfish, most unselfish guy ever." And dude, stop. And I feel like he got that from Saleh. The example I gave the other day, right, was with Elijah Moore when he very selfishly says, "Look, we're in the middle of a 3-game winning streak, but I'm not getting enough targets, so trade me." And Salah's like, "Oh, we gotta love Elijah. We gotta show him. We gotta put our arms around him and tell him how great he is, and he's a big piece. We love him so much." I don't expect to see a lot of that with Aaron Glenn. I expect a lot of time and place. I'm the coach or the player. There will be times where we can sit down man to man and go over film and scheme and whatever, or talk about whatever it may be. But when it's football time, it's football time. Um, and when there's an expectation that I give to the team, my expectation is that everyone's going to do their best to meet it. So there's a few things we've seen early on that are very, very encouraging. Um, how about I'll start with this? I mentioned it previously. It's not part of OTAs, but going back to rookie minicamp a couple of weeks ago, um, Aaron Glenn being the anti-Saleh right away, because we know Saleh. Another one of the many frustrating things about him, he would talk about cohesiveness and continuity on the offensive line, and then they wouldn't get any work. Well, come game time anyway. Aaron Glenn prioritizing development and feeling like football players need to play football. Robert Saleh felt like football players need time off. And we saw it right away with several tweets from those who were on hand for the rookie minicamp that the rookies were taking part in 11 on 11s. They weren't being protected or held out or put in bubble wrap. They were being asked to play football so that they could be evaluated by the coaches, so that they could take coaching and develop and start developing immediately. Sounds like a good plan to me. So you love that from Aaron Glenn right away if you were among those who were just beyond frustrated with the Robert Saleh sort of laid back, hands off, everybody relax. I hope you're my buddy get rid of all that. And it looks like Aaron Glenn's done that right away, which is phenomenal. Another thing he's managed to do is somehow, as a going only off of what we know right now, Garrett Wilson, star wide receiver Garrett Wilson, has come out and said he wants to stay a Jet long term, for life. And look, everybody says that. I don't get all charged up over that. There was a time when I was younger and, more naive. Oh, that guy wants to stay here. Yeah. Every guy wants to stay where they're going to get the biggest bag of money. So that this is Garrett Wilson, making his case to say, hey, pay me and I'll hang around. If you've been listening to the show for, well, at least last season, I honestly didn't think that was going to be a possibility. And I'll stand by that. I don't care. People can say what they want. Oh, you were wrong. Take the L. Um, Garrett Wilson looked like the most miserable human being in the world in post game pressers. And I thought, this guy, there's too much losing. He's not used to losing. Obviously, he doesn't like losing. He's going to want to go. Now he says he wants to stay. So we'll see how it goes. Hassan Reddick said he was coming to camp, right? I'll worry about that later. I'm coming to camp regardless, so, and I'm not putting them in the same camp. I'm just saying guys don't always do what they say they're going to do. And I'm not saying Garrett Wilson won't sign. I think Garrett Wilson would gladly sign and take a huge signing bonus right now, but this team goes out and wins 4 or 5 games next year, and Justin Fields isn't it, and he stinks up the joint, and they send him out of town or draft his replacement, and the writing is on the wall that he's going. You think Garrett Wilson's going to be like, yeah, I'm so psyched for these next 4 years. We still don't have a quarterback, and the quarterback I played with in college just got benched, cut, traded, whatever it may be. And I get that that's the sort of negative side of the equation or the outlook. But and again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Garrett Wilson thrives with Justin Fields back, and we see Justin Fields play the way he did at Ohio State, and everything's great, and we're all cheering on Jets playoff runs for the next 10 years, and Garrett Wilson's thrilled. But the important thing here, I've let myself get a little too sidetracked. Who cares? Bottom line is Garrett Wilson, he acknowledged, he said, I wasn't happy with the losing, which, duh. I mean, as I said, the body language, the demeanor, the affect, the speech, he looked completely miserable. Facially looked miserable, sounded miserable, slumped shoulders, was about as unhappy as a guy could be in a locker room. So that's and this is now multiple years of this. So that's why I looked at it and said, I don't know if this guy's going to want to hang around. But Garrett says, I wasn't happy losing, but I'm happy here, and I want to stay. So hopefully Darren Muji gets this done. One of the best young players in the NFL, and if you can get him locked up long term, obviously a huge, huge benefit. And speaking of best young players in the NFL, let's talk about Quinnon Williams a little bit. Quinnon Williams, who famously tweeted out following the release of Aaron Rodgers that, I guess it's time for a rebuild, another rebuild. What did he make? Rebuild 3? I forget exactly what he said because he took it down fairly quickly. Aaron Glenn was asked about it, I believe, at the Combine, but I could be wrong about that. And he said he didn't like it. Nope, didn't like it. I talked to Quinnon about it. Can't be doing that. This, that, the other. So Quinnon Williams was asked about it. Couldn't have handled it any better. He said it was wrong, said it was immature. He doesn't need to be doing that stuff as a leader. And I guarantee you, some of this stuff is verbatim what Aaron Glenn told him. I'm here now. You're going to be one of my guys. You're going to be one of the guys who players look to in big time situations. You're going to be one of the guys the young kids look at as they try to develop and get to your level. You're an example for this team, not just to the fans from the outside, but to the team, your teammates on the inside in the locker room. You need to think about how you conduct yourself. And Quinnon Williams, however Aaron Glenn put it to him, whether it was the way I just took my best guess or however it transpired, Quinnon Williams came out of there and he did the right thing. Took full accountability, said he's got to be better. And look, he's not wrong. I mean, does anyone disagree with him? Was he wrong to say that in terms of, I don't mean from a leadership standpoint. I just mean was he right or was he wrong? It feels like he was right to me because when you're hitting the reset button at quarterback, and you're downgrading at several spots, which we've talked about, You've downgraded at corner. You've downgraded on the interior D line. Granted, you've upgraded at OT, which is nice. I'm not saying they haven't upgraded anywhere, but you've downgraded at some pretty impressive and pretty important spots. Um, so that to me, y- you can have good young talent, which the Jets do, but you could also have good young talent with an unproven quarterback and having lost a bunch of starters. And I can I can see where some people would say this is a reset. Now, look, no, it is not a full reset. You've got a full intact offensive line. Like if you're starting a team tomorrow, that's the one thing you want. Well, most football people, I would argue, want that, right? Got to score points. It all starts up front. Let's build us an offensive line if you're starting a new team tomorrow. Well, this team's got that. So it's not I'm not saying it's a complete tear down and rebuild, but you're certainly starting over to some degree, as Williams points out. Jose Garcia in the chat says any Martinez highlights. Again, I'm keeping up like the other fans are with what the beat writers are putting out there. I did see Adrian Martinez mentioned as having made a throw that rookie wide receiver, undrafted free agent, rookie wide receiver Quentin Skinner made a diving catch. And that dude, look, as I said when they signed him, like watched a ton of him at Kansas, big target, good hands, physical. He will block in the run game. He will lower his shoulder and try to run a DB over after a catch. I think there's going to be a lot of things about his game that this coaching staff is going to love. I would imagine that they brought him in. It's not as if they're unfamiliar with the player. But I think that when they see it up close, the one thing that jumped out to me today, and again, I know I'm getting away from the Martinez thing here, Jose, but because again, that's all I saw of him is that he made a throw that Skinner made a nice catch. But a lot of people saying Skinner was a lot faster than they expected. Now he didn't run a great 40. He didn't strike me as a burner at Kansas. We'll see. We'll see what comes of that. That's one thing you don't generally see. If a guy's not a burner in college, he doesn't usually come to the pros and they go, "Oh, look, he's point 2 seconds faster than we thought, or 0.15 seconds faster than we thought." That doesn't really happen. So we'll see. Again, I'm not saying he can't run. I'm just saying that when I watched him at Kansas, high end speed wasn't. I mean, at good enough speed was what came to mind. High end speed wasn't, but I did see. I want to say at least 3 tweets today of people commenting, or yesterday, saying how fast he looked. So good news there. Um, Next thing to jump on here with Aaron Glenn, the Aaron Glenn effect, giving players instructions, players following through. Will McDonald, first round pick, D lineman, edge rusher. We knew as a rookie he was too light. He was told last offseason or going into last offseason, dude, you need to add weight. And what did Robert Saleh say the first time he was, well, at least the first time I recall him being asked in an interview, hey, has Will McDonald put on that weight, or how much weight has he put on? And Saleh, looking for kind of a way out, was like, well, he's gotten a lot stronger, but he hasn't gotten any bigger. He's the same weight as he was. It's like, okay, so either the guy's got a metabolic issue or he didn't take you seriously when you told him they didn't need to put on weight that offseason after his rookie year. So Will McDonald, I mean, he still blew up at a 10.5 sack season. Good for him. Under Aaron Glenn, Will McDonald comes in, he's put on 15 pounds. That's great news for the Jets. You get him up into the 250s, give him that much better of a chance to hold up at the point against the run, set the edge, all these things. And just makes him that much better of a player, a more well-rounded player. And again, according to those in attendance, saying he doesn't look any slower, doesn't look like he's lost a step, which again, at that size and his age, not like he's an older guy adding weight late in his career. He's a young dude with a long frame who's added some weight and looks like a better player, or sorry, looks like he hasn't lost any explosion as a result. So you would expect him to be a better player. Again, stronger against the run. I don't think Will McDonald has been as bad against the run as some say, but there is definitely room for improvement. So I'm not here to say he was ineffective or yeah. I've heard people say he can't play the run at all. I mean he had his moments, but they just weren't consistent enough. And the other thing that Aaron Glenn talked about that I wanted to touch on was Justin Fields, the new quarterback in camp who apparently already, it's you have to remind yourself it's early. I mean, it's as early gets. You're talking first OTA, first full team OTA of the offseason. But what are we hearing from Aaron Glenn about Justin Fields? He loves the way the guy works. He's not a celebrity quarterback. I don't think that's a shot at Aaron Rodgers. It could be. I don't think, I don't know. It could, because it is something that he's already said. He said in the past, it was something Bill Parcells used to talk about, not wanting a celebrity quarterback. So maybe it's a shot at Rodgers. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it definitely isn't. I'm saying that there's a case to be made that this is a term, a saying that Aaron Glenn was exposed to in his younger years from Parcells. So he could just be repeating that, but it would apply, of course, to Aaron Rodgers, who was a celebrity. But Fields, early on, again, it's one practice. It's early. It's almost silly to talk about it, but where it doesn't become silly is if you talk about it and it lingers and it's still a thing, and you can look back and go, okay, well, that's been a thing since camp started. If it goes away, it goes away. Nobody cares. But what we were hearing, or what folks were tweeting out from practice who were there, great speed, which again, we all know that. There's nobody who's watched Justin Fields play a single football game and doesn't know he can't fly. Um, but some good throws mixed in with a fair number of bad throws. Some deep balls down the field. I want to say he connected with Garrett Wilson early on, and then had, 2, 3 incompletions in a row that were not particularly close. So I mean, listen, when you're talking about new scheme, new everything, new literally everything in your life, new city, new house, new bedroom, new bed, new coaches, new receivers, new linemen, new system, it's going to take some time. So I'm not out here criticizing Justin Fields. I'm just saying what's being reported about Justin Fields. Um, I still look. I said it before. I still think the kid, he's got the tools. It's about the consistency and moving forward as a quarterback. But you can't, as much as I see people say, "Oh, it's one practice." I mean, yeah, I agree. It is one practice, but that doesn't mean you don't talk about it. This becomes a point where you can either look back and say he showed improvement and got better from those early struggles, or you can say, not a lot's changed, which is a little bit concerning. So we don't know which direction this is going to go. I think Justin Fields will. I think, as I said after the signing, I think I did. I think I said it, that he will be the best version of himself that we've seen. I'm going to take Aaron Glenn at his word when he says he's going to play to players' strengths. Um, too often, and we've talked about this so many times as Jets fans, you bring in these coaches who have my way or the highway mentality, and they ask guys to do things that they're not good at doing. And then you wonder why it doesn't work, or you don't, or at least play to their strengths early and let their game develop. So there are those who seem to think this is what happened with Justin Fields, that he landed in a bad spot in Chicago. They didn't, what they were asking him to do wasn't really fair on him. And then he goes to Pittsburgh, has a decent start, and then gets benched, which really, I mean, look, that could end up being a boon for the Jets, because obviously if he starts the full season, um, Pittsburgh either knows if they want him or not. If they want him, he probably stays there. Why would you leave Pittsburgh to come to the Jets unless Pittsburgh benched you and pissed you off? So, you got to kind of thank the Steelers for that, for a very rarely mishandled situation. I mean, I say mishandled. They played well under Russ Wilson too. It's not as if they benched Fields and everything fell apart. They actually were a little bit more efficient on offense, from what I recall. So right now, you've got a guy who, again, your head coach loves having him, loves the work ethic, loves the tools, loves the status, the non-celebrity status, and you've got guys seemingly falling in line, whether it's Quinnon Williams taking accountability, Will McDonald gaining the weight, Aaron Glenn obviously not shy with the media, happy to tell it like it is, and he looks like he's having a little bit of fun too. Through a couple of jokes in there. So The head coach is having fun. The players understand what's expected of them. 100% attendance, which is always nice to see. Which I think that tends to be the case. It going off sheerly off memory. It's so rare that guys don't show up when you have a new regime because you got to impress. I mean, you might want a new contract, but if you're a bubble guy or someone who doesn't want to get cut and start over somewhere else, like you've got to be there and show that new staff, not just that you're willing to be there, but kind of show off what you can do a little bit and say, hey, here's why I'm the starter, or here's why I deserve the contract extension that I'm looking for. So you got to show up. If you don't show up to that stuff, you're not, you're leaving yourself open to a lot of bad possibilities if you're not looking to start over, move on, have to compete for a spot with a team where you're not a superstar level guy where you've got to kind of start from scratch all over again. Um, so good stuff out of OTAs. Again, media is going to have limited access. There's not going to be a ton of coverage from OTAs. I believe there's 4 sessions that the media will have access to. So when they do, we'll cover what they talk about, and we'll come up with generate some other content in the meantime. That'll be it for this one. Keep it short. Just wanted to cover the main areas where it feels like Aaron Glenn is having an early impact, and we will be back again probably a couple times this week. Well, we're on Thursday, Friday morning, a little later than usual tonight. But we'll definitely be back in the coming days with some more thoughts, probably on the roster, on some guys. If any names pop up, we do want to do a show talking about some of the lesser known guys who aren't necessarily, the brand new UDFAs get attention because they're part of the box of shiny new toys. But there are other guys who are either previous year late round picks or previous year's UDFAs or previous year's late season under the radar additions to the practice squad who still managed to hang around. And there are plenty of those. So we'll do a show talking about them probably here in the next few days. But that'll wrap this one up. Have a good one, Jets fans.